Hello, and a big welcome to the aid station, and a really exciting and interesting one we have today. I'm going to start it once I've made the introduction with a little bit of a geography lesson because I had to go and be certain of where we were going today. We're going to Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands. Absolutely beautiful when I looked at it on Mr. Google. And we're meeting Robin Sapong, and Robin wears many hats. He's the General Secretary of the Northern Marianas Athletics. He's the president of Oceania Athletics Association, and he also sits on the World Athletics Council. Busy man, Robin. Wonderful to meet you. Thanks for making the time.
A warm thank you very much. And Chris, thank you so much for reaching out to in the middle of the Pacific, or on the map, just a dot, but we are here existing here in the Northern Marianas. Thank you.
Yeah, a beautiful looking dot. Give us a little bit of a geography lesson. You said in the middle of the Pacific, but give people a bit of a sense of if they were to get on a plane, where would they fly from? How long would it take them? And tell us a little bit about your beautiful country.
Well, yeah, it is Northern Marianas, and actually one famous thing that you might actually heard of is the Marianas Trench, which
Yeah.
is the deepest part of the world. That's where we at. So the Marianas Trench is in the Northern Marianas Islands, and we're just 4 hours south of Japan by flight, or north of Australia towards the north. So normally what I tell people is between Japan and Hawaii. That's where we at, right above the equator, where we are in the Northern Marianas. We are part of the Micronesian island region. So in the Pacific, you have the Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia. So Northern Marianas is actually within the Micronesian island chains.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for the geography lesson, and let's move on to a Robin lesson. I'd love to hear about you and your background, some of the things we were chatting about before we recorded. You've got a wonderful story to tell. Give us a little insight of your background, please, Robin.
Okay, sure. Thank you again, Chris. Yeah, so I'm actually an island boy, originally from the island of Chuuk, which is a state within the federal state of Micronesia. I come, growing up grassroots in track and field, running barefoot all over the islands, and we don't have access to the state-of-the-art technology, but we love. I love running. I do most of the road running events from a mile to 10K, whether no stopwatch or whatever. We just run because you need to run to go to school, right? Because we don't have school buses, so my wife just run. So that's where I grew up, and then later on I end up moving to Northern Marianas after going to college, and I wanted to compete in the islands. I did 2 games, our regional games, which is called the Micronesian Games. But as thing goes around, when things are changes, you need to be a passport holder of the country, right? And because I still carrying a passport from my island, my country, which is first state of Micronesia, I couldn't compete on behalf of the Northern Marianas. And I kind of feel bad at first, but one of my mentor goes, "So what you gonna do about it? You're just gonna walk away from the sport?" So I start like helping out, and the person approached me, goes, "We need your energy to handle the general secretary and treasurer position." So since 2002, I've been a volunteer general secretary for. Used to be, we were known as Northern Marianas Track and Field Federation, right? But it was kind of different acronym, and as things evolve, we changed it to Northern Marianas Athletics, the way we are about 2008. Then moving forward, I was invited to a general congress in the Ocean Athletics to represent my island, and it's an interesting story. I was there actually to lobby on behalf of our former president to run for as an area rep. But things turn out, all the island group decided to elect me to be the island rep for back then Micronesia. So that's how I became on the council member. And from then on, things kind of changed. Where I've been active on the Oceanic Council since then. Then 2019, that's where our former president, now vice president of the World Athletics, Jeff, got elected in Doha.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a vacancy available on the Oceanic Council at that time. Then just as good flow, I wasn't interested in running, and I was working full time as a head of security in a hotel chain. So most of the time I work 24, not 24 hours, but when everything happened, I need to be there. Like
Yeah.
when people on holidays, I'm not on holiday because I need to take care of the people. That's also my role is actually take care of our guests, of our people. Then somehow I cannot sit down, and when things are changing, I'm like, you know, I asked my federation, goes, I think we should try, and how it goes, because we're Northern Marianas Island is one of the only islands in this region that we're not part of the Olympic. So I don't have a Olympic national committee like the rest of the region. And I use that as a strength because I always use that strength because it give us more opportunity to be flexible,
Yeah.
find different resources because I'm not tied up to one company that they tie in the sponsorship or marketing brand, for example, right? And that's can actually I use that as a way actually a strength that to help us get support from the local government and the local partners keeping forward. No restriction, meaning I can negotiate the actual event on our terms, and then there is no need to be involved with your national Olympic committee because they don't have the brand or owning rights of the event. So that's
Right.
kind of where we at. So eventually I put my hand in. I got nominated, screened through World Athletics, but the next thing you know, we all know what happened. The pandemic struck, and then we're not able to travel or not. So my election was actually done via a Zoom session. It was the first one ever that I got elected through
Through.
social this platform, and that time we were wonder we're gonna get collection all over the islands because I happened to be on the 20 members under Ocean Athletics and 3 associate members, and the time zone between from the eastern part of the Pacific to the western side is just mass, nothing but ocean. You
Yeah.
might be able to get on a train, but no, yes, travel by hours. Actually, if I were to say to visit my areas, take me at least 2 to 3 days to get there where am I at. By the time I reach there, I might encounter a tropical storm or cyclone for that matter, and things get delayed. But that's just in the Pacific. We're used to adapt to the changes, because we don't have much direction to go to, but travel and finding resources that might be available for us, to ensure that we keep moving around. So that's
Right.
in a brief summary where I'm at. And yeah, so actually interesting. I just noticed the calendar. I got elected 2019 of December 16, and
Right.
today is actually so.
Today's December
Yeah, it's
16th.
actually 16. So
Wow.
in
Wow.
2 years as an Oceania president, and I really thank my member federations because without the support of my member federations and my council members, really the challenges could be more heavier than it is. But there's a lot of challenges, but we find solutions because at the end of the day, it's a moving sport and it's keep evolving. And if we don't take care of our sport or ourselves for that matter, you know, somebody's gonna come and lead, go tell us what to do.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a very
Wow.
short brief of
What a
where
great
my
story. What a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, like you say, this collaboration is one of the
yep.
keys that has come out of here. And we were talking before of many hours on Zoom watching other people's faces across the world and
Yes.
having conversations. So tell us, I mean, busy times. You've just come off your regional council. You're on a World Athletics Council this week. What are some of the things you're working with? What's the COVID situation like there in the middle of the Pacific? And you're busy working on a regional games, which is coming up, I think,
Yep.
next year. You said. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, just actually in 2 days' time, I'm hosting our end of the year island relay, and most events locally have been canceled because there's a surge in our community, but the vaccination rate is high. So looking at the circumstances, and of course, adopting and borrowing some of the first aid information that we've been going through the webinar about risk and assessment, I'm able to actually put in a protocol using raised roster entries, right?
Hmm.
And the way I could limit the number of entries. So people are like, are we really going to have an event this Saturday? Because yes, live, but with social distancing, there won't be no awards going on, but just ensure that the people enjoy the atmosphere. It'll be a half marathon race with relay. each person take a mile throughout from the southern part of the island to the most beautiful side of the island, which is the north.
Wow. How
So
far is that,
showcasing it.
Robin?
It's about 13 miles. So
Okay.
that the island itself in Saipan is about within 30 miles long. So
Yeah.
within 2 hours, you can actually go from north to south
North to
or
south.
east to west. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't take the whole day to go around the island.
Yeah.
And yeah, with the challenges, when we had our events, that's kind of give back to pre Tokyo, because we were supposed to have our Oceania Championship going on. Now with 20 countries try to bring them to different areas, it's just difficult because more borders were being closed,
Hmm.
right? And it was just very difficult to put on events. But what we find is some local events where we can do mass participation on your own, whether it be a 5K run, 10K. And luckily myself in 2022, when our half marathon and marathon, which is our annual big event, got kind of call off. We actually did a women's only 10K.
Hmm.
So what we did, we limit the entries to 100 people, only females, right? But the men can support via virtual,
Nice.
just to ensure that you still. So we open up to virtual where people can run a different. And then for the people not able to run a 5K, 10K, we did actually a combination of team. So that way,
Wow.
though, they could be like a team and just finish up the result. So it turned out well. I was very surprised because again, at that time our COVID numbers were pretty much low, and we went ahead with it. But of course, we always have to respect the local authorities when they give out protocols. So it's been a very challenging summer when we can't travel to our big events.
Yeah.
We normally host our big events throughout the region. So
Hmm.
we do like a sub-regional event like Polynesia. Then we move to a Melanesian one and a Micronesian regional one under the Oceania banner. And of
Wow.
course, we have our Oceania Championship. So for the past 2 years, we have not able to host a Oceania Championship. But prior to Tokyo, actually something came out from that. We used to call a cup, Oceania Cup.
Hmm.
So we had some athletes trying to get qualify ranking to Tokyo
Hmm.
from the islands, and of course our major big countries, which is Australia, New Zealand. So our creative team, along with the local organizers, they were able to put like a camp where we are able to, get a pre-meet prior to going to the Tokyo 2020. And
Hmm.
so what happened with the small islands, we compiled like an island teams for some of the islands were there, so competing with New Zealand, Australia. Then it was difficult for the under 18 team to travel to Nairobi from Australia and New Zealand. So I think they were able to put actually the under 18 with the meet, so that way they can compete along with the senior athletes and get some experience. Because at the end of the day, we need to retain that group of runners moving forward. But
Yeah, building for
um,
the future, I guess.
yes,
That's
yes,
one of the
yeah, yes,
challenges
yep,
potentially is,
yep,
we're going to see this knock on in
yeah,
a few years' time where that younger group hasn't had the opportunity to get
yeah,
involved.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, so I guess locally with my events is to host a track and field full blown. It's a bit difficult because we still have to go temperature check and all that. And our facilities actually, we just came out from two back-to-back super typhoons in
Wow.
2015, a big one, and
Yes.
then later on another one, and it wiped out we had our track reservoirs in 2017. A few months later, just wiped out. So despite where we at, there's a lot of challenges, but we're up to the challenge that we can bring it on. Because at the end of the day, we just have to be resilient. You
Yeah.
just can't keep waiting for something to happen. And I always, during my initial meeting with the staff in Monaco, when I was invited to a staff meeting, I always say this. It's a saying from our people in Micronesia, and mostly our matured people is I always tell a story of what is the difference between an eel and a sea cucumber, right? You see them on the beach, right? So in that perspective, the eel is there and the sea cucumber. sea cucumber just stay along the sand, like feather in the sand. Whenever the current go this way, follows, right?
Mhm.
The north or south, right? It's just following the wind and the flow. I mean the wave. But an eel doesn't matter during storm, right? During calm, they need to go and search for food,
Mhm.
right? Or to go out there. So I always tell people, "Goes, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a sea cucumber or an eel?" Right? So there's both positive way, but
That's a
yeah,
great.
right? Because
That's
you
a,
have to be out no matter what the storm is, right? You need to go and find to
yeah.
survive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's something I always put myself because it's passed on from my forefathers. I'm like, I just have to go with it. And yep, this island area is actually made of a air group of knowledgeable navigators. And even I'm not worthy to talk about them. It's a navigating society that they just use the wave, the star,
Yes.
as the guideline in this region. So we're blessed that the ancestors among this we actually passed on the knowledge through different they call them clans
Yeah.
or schools of navigating. And like
We were
myself, I might
talking
be
about
yeah.
that, weren't we, before we came on air? That in this part of the world broadly, and me sitting in Asia and up where
Yeah.
you are, it's just wonderful to see so much of that ancient culture is still
Yes.
ingrained
Yeah. Yeah.
in society. It's incredible. Robin, as always, time flies on these things, and I would love to get a sense of something inspirational. I mean, you're an inspirational man. You're showing great leadership across the region, bringing people, the value of people being active and healthy. You must have seen so many inspiring things in your time. Is there a particular story that you'd like to leave the viewers with for a couple of minutes that would inspire them, please?
Well, I would actually say during a marathon event, when we start our first sidebar marathon with our partners, I normally offer technical support for the marathon. And actually, when we started the sidebar marathon, it was in my garage. Me and my wife would put all the bib numbers and all everything back then because we don't have the technology, right? So
Yeah.
it'd be like, 2 o'clock in the morning, the marathon, we have to go early because the humid here. It's not one of the friendliest one, but you get used to it.
Yeah.
So as we go along the following year, we had a group of a family that actually joined, and this gentleman he wanted to complete the marathon with his kids. And as you know, some marathon they have cutoff time, they have age limit, right? And that time when we were starting, we overlooked that part that there was no cutoff time. We'll be out there to like 8 hours and 55 minutes waiting for the last runner with
Hmm.
all the crews. They want to make sure because you want to enjoy your marathon and then want to finish it up. So yeah, this gentleman actually came here from Japan, and I wanted his wish was to run a marathon with his family, a daughter and a son. And when we were there, we heard there was still a group of athletes out there. So we sent our crew, goes, can we go find out, who are these runners? Because, we don't have the technology that we can track, runners where they at. Back then, we just used stopwatch, we don't have the photo finish back then, or race mats, which when we started it. And, we had our support of our local police officers and EMS, and they tracked them. So it was very nice when they actually score them to the finish line, right? And we never knew that that was his wish
Wow.
until a few days later. That in the middle of the night he was taken to the hospital, right? Yeah, and then actually bring back to Japan. And when he wake up, he didn't know that he finished the marathon with the
Wow.
kids.
Wow.
Yeah, so whenever I say a story, this kind of feel touchy because it's part of human when you didn't know that you can inspire somebody just to bring on a marathon.
Yeah.
And that's why actually I do what I do because
Yeah.
just the human feeling when you reach out and make difference in people's lives, completing a marathon and whatnot. So yeah, not it's very interesting when you try to help people the way you can, just finishing an event. And ensure they accomplish it. So here I
Oh,
am.
that's an amazing
And I,
story. Wow, what a
yeah,
great story. Thank you for sharing that. Robin, wonderful to catch up. So many great stories there. Congrats
yes,
on all that you're achieving, and hopefully one day I'll come. We spoke that I love scuba diving and it's a beautiful area, and come and visit you one day. But yeah, for the time being, thank you so much. All the best for the rest of the year, and
thank
we'll look
you.
forward to being in touch.
Yes, Chris, thank you so much for having us, and we look forward to the meeting in face to face somewhere out there. Thank you.
Sounds great. Take care, Robin. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Thank you.